Good afternoon. Welcome to our spring semester campus update. It's wonderful to see all of you here, as well as to welcome those of you who are joining remotely. I hope you've enjoyed the wonderful progress we've made on the new quad since our last campus update. I will speak about this again at the conclusion of our presentation. Before I turn over the program to Provost Berger, and the other members of our leadership team, like to share with you some of the following developments and updates. Mayor Wu announces university-assisted community school initiative. We are thrilled to note the historic new partnership with Boston Public Schools, formally announced by Mayor Michelle Wu during her State of the City address, to create the first ever university-assisted community school in New England at the BCLA McCormick School here in Columbia Point. This partnership extends our ongoing work with BCLA McCormick, and it is modeled after a similar pioneering university-assisted community school network developed at UCLA, which I served as dean during nearly a decade, the Graduate School of Education and Information Studies. Former colleagues of mine at UCLA will be joining our dean, Dean Tara Parker. Tara, I saw you when I walked in. Okay. And Dr. Rebecca Granger from Mayor Wu's team will join us on a panel discussion on this topic as part of the program of activities when we open the new campus and in inauguration week on April 1st. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. I've had the great honor, great responsibility of continuing to have extremely productive business meetings with our state leaders in recent months, including Governor Maura Healey, most recently 2 days ago, Mayor Wu, most recently yesterday, Secretary of Education Patrick Tutwiler, Secretary of Labor and Workforce Development Laureen Johns, Boston City Council President Ruthie Lujian, most recently yesterday, House Ways and Means Chairman Aaron Michalowicz, House Majority Leader and distinguished alumnus Michael Moran, State Representative Don Hunt, and several others, members of the House Higher Education Committee. Our purposeful conversations are all very focused and very productive. I can say they reflect a new, a growing, an effervescent, if I can put it that way, interest in UMass Boston's academic progress, our academic programs, particularly as they relate to and inform policy priorities of the governor, the mayor, and our government leaders. These relationships are yielding very significant fruits for our campus, now and moving forward. Transformational gift. This past December, we were thrilled to share news of a historic $10 million gift from New Balance Athletics to establish the New Balance Institute for Innovative Leadership in Sports. The Institute will complement the New Balance Sport Leadership and Administration program by providing new faculty and bolstering scholarship funding to increase enrollment in the program for up to 300 students annually. This is a brilliant development, and it will provide additional research and educational pathways to what is already a unique, high-demand academic professional program at UMass Boston. And here I want to take a moment to say that this investment, this initiative, is a tribute to the extraordinary leadership of Professor Joseph Cooper and his vision for the future of sports leadership in Boston and beyond. I think I saw Professor Cooper, but I'm seeing things. So there he is. Okay, very good. I'm glad. He's here. I can see him. And there's Tara. I thought I saw Tara. Okay. I mean, at my age, you got to worry about these things. Thank you. Health and Equity Compact Forum. In January, we convened a forum with the Health Equity Compact to extend the conversation on health equity in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The forum addressed last year's Blue Cross Blue Shield Foundation Cost of Inequality report, which noted that health inequities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts resulted in an annual economic burden of an astonishing $5.9 billion. The event was attended by policymakers, scholars, business leaders, representatives of healthcare providers, insurance, nonprofits, with an interest in collaborating and coming together to embed health equity across all our endeavors here in the Commonwealth. The forum also generated support and a proposed legislative initiative, the Act to Advance Health Equity, which would aim to transform the Massachusetts healthcare system into one that is more inclusive, more equitable, sustainable. And this, of course, is consistent with advancing the health equity work in our strategic plan. While the Commonwealth excels in so many things, just yesterday, the day before yesterday, the Commonwealth was voted as the best state for women to live in the United States of America. While we're making enormous progress, there is so much yet to be done. So I am so grateful to Michael Curry and the leadership, and our Dean, Dean Bowe, who is leading our endeavors in these and so many other domains. And just yesterday, I was honored to join Mayor Wu and the leadership on health and mental health in the city of Boston to announce the city's $21 million commitment to transformative funding for mental health and behavioral health programs and services to support our city's youth and families. The Transforming Boston Access to Mental Health Project is a collaboration, new, between the mayor's office, the Boston Public Health Commission, the Boston Public Schools, and of course, UMass Boston, to deepen our work in the city, to recruit, to train, retain, and place 236 of our students in behavioral health positions in our city, in the great city of Boston. This is an extraordinary opportunity. At a time when health and mental health issues are the existential issues of our times, UMass Boston is stepping up. As I noted yesterday, you look at the data, following the wicked pandemic that took such toll, especially on our communities. The kids are not okay, and we're going to step up to be part of the solution. Chancellor's lecture series. You may recall that late last year, I was delighted to host the inaugural lecture of our Chancellor's Lecture Series, established to engage distinguished thought leaders from around the world in conversations on the global challenges of our times. The lecture, the inaugural lecture, entitled From Climate Crisis to Climate Resilience, featured the world-renowned Dr. Ram Ramanathan, Distinguished Professor Emeritus of Climate and Sustainability at the Scripps Institute of Oceanography at UC San Diego, and the discoverer of the heat-trapping qualities of the CFCs, a scientist of towering influence in the world, to present on our new, groundbreaking mitigation, adaptation, societal transformation strategy, which I am co-authoring with Professor Ramanathan, for bending the emissions curve and making our communities and ecosystems more resilient to the climate stress we're facing and will continue to face over the next 2 generations. Dr. Ramanathan's approach was developed in partnership with scholars and the pontifical academies, and it will be shared with mayors and governors from around the world at a Vatican summit I am co-leading with Professor Ramanathan this coming May. I am pleased to note that the second Chancellor's Lecture on Climate will be given by no other than an extraordinary Bostonian, Dr. Vanessa Carey, the first ever Director General and Special Envoy for Climate Change at the World Health Organization and Director of the Global Policy and Social Change Program at Harvard Medical School, will be delivering our second Chancellor's Lecture on April 3rd. She will address the intersection of climate change and global health. Please look for more details on our website and in your mailbox, we don't call it mailbox anymore, we call it your inbox. And I, of course, invite you to bring your questions, to bring your concerns to Dr. Carey during her visit on April 3rd. Faculty research. Another extraordinary year. Following the most successful year in UMass Boston's history. Let that sink in. Most successful year in UMass Boston history for external research funding. We continue to build on a powerful, powerful momentum and the success we have attained. In the first 3 months of this year, we have already, our extraordinary faculty members have already been granted over $51 million in new awards, just 3 years. This is a 33% increase from last year at this time. I want to highlight one new grant, just as an example of the impactful research being conducted at UMass Boston. This is a $1 million grant. These are the hardest grants to get from the National Science Foundation. I served on the panel at the NSF that awards grants. Immensely competitive. $1 million grant to 5 UMass Boston faculty members to support ADVANCE. It's an adaptation initiative of UMass Boston CARES, Communities, Acknowledgement, Recognition, and Equity through Culture and Sponsorship. This endeavor is existential. It will work to increase gender and racial equity across our STEM faculty. The research grant not only embodies our signature commitment to diversity and inclusion, it also advances our work on enriching our human core, a key priority of our strategic plan for the times. Congratulations to these 5 faculty members. Dean Rajini, Professor Adan Colon Carmona, Maureen Scully, Caitlin Salini, and Hannah Sabian. Bravo. Okay. We have the mind, we have the body. Beacon Athletics. Our student athletes are well underway this spring, and the postseason play will begin next month. So please be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for details, and be sure to get out there and support our amazing athletic teams, including, I am so happy to announce, our inaugural women's lacrosse team and our softball team, which has had its best start ever. 8 wins. Jackie, is that right? Oh. See, I'm already dated here. 10 wins. You heard it here first. Go out there, cheer to our students, student athletes, scholar athletes who represent us so well, with great pride, with sportsmanship on the playing field. Go Beacons. I want to take a moment to commend our Vice Chancellor of Athletics and Recreation, Dr. Jacqueline Schumann, who has recently shared the completion and publication of a comprehensive 5-year strategic plan for UMass Boston athletics and recreation, advancing the legacy of excellence. Kudos to you, Dr. Jackie, and the team, and we're so proud of our student athletes under your leadership. Spring performing arts events. It wouldn't be a university without the performing arts. I encourage all of you to support our students, our colleagues, and their beautiful art, their creativity, at various upcoming performing arts during the spring. A theater production, Radium Girls, a story of women working with radium, becoming ill and fighting for justice in the courts and the press to hold companies accountable for worker safety. A UMass Boston Chamber Orchestra concert that will feature smaller ensembles of winds, strings, and horns, in addition to a grand finale by the full orchestra. An evening of improvisational jazz by the UMass Boston Jazz Ensembles, and a concert by the UMass Boston Chamber Singers and University Chorus, highlighting music from China, India, Iraq, Israel, Japan, Palestine, South Korea, and Vietnam. Only at UMass Boston. Please join our students, join our colleagues, and help them celebrate the beauty of the work they do. New Director of Public Safety and Chief of Police. Following up on Vice Chancellor Karen Ferrer Muniz's email announcement last week, I am so delighted to share the news that Dr. Stacy Lloyd will serve as our next Director of Public Safety and Chief of Police, effective May 1st. Chief Lloyd has served the New Jersey State Police for more than 20 years, with distinction, most recently as captain, with the Bureau Chief responsibilities, and as advisor to the superintendent and deputy superintendent in all matters pertinent to equal opportunity employment in the state of New Jersey. In addition to her law enforcement background, service, Chief Lloyd is a passionate student and a passionate learner. She earned a Doctor of Philosophy in Leadership, a Master of Science in Public Administration, and a Bachelor of Arts in Criminal Justice. She has taught courses on systemic racism, classism, gender discrimination at that great, great university, Howard University, Monmouth University, and Caldwell University. I hope you will all join me in welcoming Chief Lloyd to our Beacon community when she arrives later this spring. I want to thank Vice Chancellor Ferrer Muniz, the members of the search committee, our public safety and police colleagues, and all who participated in this national search for our new chief of police. And my sense of gratitude, my admiration to Interim Chief Ken Sprague for his leadership and support during this year. And of course, I can never forget our beautiful Beacon, the most beloved officer in the history of policing in North America. You've all met him. He's sweet. Man, he's growing. I mean, he's just become delighted by this new direction. Commencement. I'm very, very happy to announce that our own Lieutenant Governor, Kim Driscoll, has accepted our invitation to be the future speaker at UMass Boston's 56th commencement exercises in May. We're honored to have the Lieutenant Governor, the former Mayor of Salem, a champion of education, and a passionate advocate for all our citizens in the Commonwealth, address our undergraduate class of 2024 on May 23rd. I look forward to seeing all of you at that wonderful, wonderful occasion. Thank you so much. I now turn the stage to the program to our provost, Dr. Joseph Berger.
Thank you, Chancellor. Good afternoon. So it's my pleasure to be able to give you an update on where we are with our campus strategic plan. And if you'll notice in the Chancellor's remarks, there was numerous references to it. And I think it's important for us to recognize that now that we're into our second full year of a 10-year strategic plan for the times, that this is a living, dynamic plan. This is not a strategic plan that was developed, and then we all put it on our shelves and then we go on our merry way. Everything we are doing at UMass Boston, and so many of the successes that the Chancellor spoke of, are built on the talent and the hard work of all of you in the UMass Boston community, but it's being focused and harnessed by a strategic plan. And what we do really matters, but why we do it and how we do it, the process by which we engage with each other matters. And I think this strategic plan for the times is a very good example of that. Oh, sorry, thanks. So I want to remind everybody that this is the campus's strategic plan, that when we developed it, it was through a broad and deep process. We had 11 committees, over 240 members of our community directly participated in pulling the plan together. That's not counting all of the other listening sessions, focus groups, opportunities for input. So this is our plan. And I just want to give a few highlights across our 5 strategic priorities. Holistic student success being our first priority. And again, and I consistently want us to remember that it is our first priority, first and foremost. The reason we exist is because of our students. All of the other activities that we engage in are privileges that come from being able to serve and educate students. But we are a research university. Again, very proudly, Boston's only public research university. So therefore, it is our privilege and our responsibility to be able to engage in impactful research and scholarship, and place matters. We are located in Boston, again, a city that has more university students, more colleges and universities than any other in the US, yet we are the only public research university, and we are deeply embedded in the fabric of the local communities. But a university is also its people. So we are committed to enriching our human core. And as we look at the environment in which we work, how do we best reimagine campus space? So I'm going to focus primarily in my remarks on the first 2, but my other colleagues, when they come up to speak in a few minutes, will also be talking about some of the work that we're doing to enrich our human core, to reimagine campus space. So this does really run through everything we do. So a few highlights. And so I want to start with impactful research and scholarship. You know, the chancellor mentioned, that last year we had our, best year ever. Matter of fact, it was our second straight year that we had set a record for sponsored research awards. And this year, we're already, as you noted, far ahead of pace compared to where we with last year's record. I mean, so we've gone from a record in fiscal year of 22 of, when we had $67.7 million in new externally sponsored awards to, that was a record 2 years ago. Right now, in quarter 2 of this year, we're already at 51.9. And remember, that was a record. So we are making remarkable progress. But it's not just getting the new awards. We've also increased the amount of funding, our research expenditures. Again, last year was a record. We were at $62 million, and we're far ahead of that pace again this year. But that doesn't happen by accident, right? Again, I want to appreciate and recognize, that all of the PIs, the researchers, the students who are engaged in those projects, that's what makes this work happen. But we have also been making significant changes in our Office of Research and Sponsored Programs. Over the last year, we've converted some of our funds so that we could hire more staff. They're now coming fully on board, which is adding even more support. We have Kawali, our online grants management system, fully operational and functioning. But now we are in the process of organizing teams of research administrators, and we've created a whole new set of job descriptions so that we can have teams that are dedicated to support the different areas of campus, to make sure that each area of campus is getting the support that matches both the level of activity there, but also has some expertise with the types of research that are being done in those areas. So these are going to allow us, to continue breaking records in sponsored research. And in a couple of weeks, we will also have some additional big news in the world of research that we will be able to share with you. So that's just a little teaser. I do want to say that enriching our Human Core, that we do have our Beacon Wellness Initiative and Commission. You're going to hear more from Rob Pomales and Joseph Cooper in a little bit about some of the initiatives there. So I won't take a lot of time on that right now. For the city, the chancellor mentioned our initiative with where BCLA McCormick, right next door, really literally on our campus, a high school that we do have a long connection to, but now is the first university-assisted community hub school in the Commonwealth, in the region. And we're thrilled to be able to do that work. But that's just one example of so many different projects we have. And right now, so we are have been for 10 years a Carnegie Community Engaged Research University. Right now, we are in the process of gearing up to go for the next accreditation as a community engaged university. And right now, we are cataloging all of the many excellent works that we do throughout the university so that we can better track and demonstrate not just what we do, but the impact of the work that we do in the community. So more to follow on that. And then I won't say a lot about the Reimagining Campus Space because Vice Chancellor Curlace will have some updates about that. I do want to dig a little bit more into holistic student success, though. I think many or all of you have seen this chart before. Don't worry, I'm not going to go into everything on this. There's a lot there. But I do like to show this because we do have a comprehensive approach to working through student success, and each one of these arrows and boxes are the different pathways, and they each have plans that go with them, detailed implementation plans. So I do want to touch base on just a few, not a sample, not everything we're doing of some key initiatives and activities. And I want to start with what we're doing in advising. We've had a very decentralized advising model historically on campus. Last year we had a working group that worked diligently all year to come up with recommendations how we could have a more coordinated and aligned approach to advising. We have been implementing it this year. And one of the things that we're doing is making sure that all of our advisors, no matter which team, what part of campus that they work on, they're getting access to the same tools, to the same supports, to consistent frameworks and professional development so that our students can benefit from a consistent level of support across the entire university. We have amazing advisors, but they also need the tools and the support and the resources to be able to do their work well. And part of what we're doing is also making sure that all of the advising notes, that we have a case management system for student success so that we're able to get detailed information about students that can then be integrated in with our other student success data so we can be increasingly proactive about identifying how best and when to intervene to help students overcome obstacles and barriers that they face. We're also, have launched our Helio Campus dashboards, which is allowing us then to have evidence-based, data-informed metrics of success. So all the deans are working in the colleges right now, and at the end of the month, they'll be submitting retention targets that are, again, not just pie in the sky, we hope we reach a particular target, but that have very specific meaning for each particular college so that then we can be building better interventions to help us meet those targets. Implementation of early college. One of the responsibilities we have as a university, particularly since we are of and for the city, is not just to hope we get the students that we need in the future. There are very real enrollment challenges out there. New England and the rest of the country, but particularly in New England, there is a demographic decline coming. We're monitoring that very closely. Our great colleagues in enrollment management are working very hard with this. But we also have a lot of untapped talent in Boston. And the only growing segment of young people in the area with the demographic decline coming are immigrant origin children, the Black and brown children of Boston who have not traditionally been served particularly well by the education systems in Massachusetts, and particularly here in Boston. We are part of a public education ecosystem, and as the Public Research University, we have a leadership role. And so we are working very closely with Boston Public Schools in the Commonwealth to provide early college. Right now, this year, we started in 3 high schools here in Boston: Fenway High School, New Mission High School, and of course, BCLA McCormick, right next door, to offer up to 30 credits of college courses, free of charge to the students, which, think about it, that means that potentially a quarter of their college education is paid for before they start here, and they will be better prepared to succeed in college, and the plan is to have more and more of them come here to UMass Boston. We are working with 3 other high schools to bring them on board next fall, including Tech Boston, Margarita Muniz Academy, and the Jeremiah Burke High School. Our goal is to be up, in the next 3 years, is to get up to 1,000 early college students. This will be transformational for Boston. The new billing and payment plan system that we have put in place this year for students that, we launched in the fall, worked very hard before that. And I want to emphasize, this is a student success initiative. By having clear deadlines, better support for financial planning, we can help make sure that our students don't have financial holds at the end of the semester, don't have to stop out with semesters because they've had debt from previous semesters, and that we can help them be more financially successful while they are students. And then we've also restructured the Office of Graduate Studies because holistic student success isn't just about undergraduate students, it's also about our graduate students. And Dr. Tracy Baynard has done a great job of stepping in to lead that office this year. And I'll just, 2 examples of new initiatives. Next week, we're gonna have our first ever doctoral hooding ceremony to honor the important milestone of success when doctoral students move from completing their coursework and their proposal into doctoral candidacy. It's an important part, not only of holistic student success, but enriching our human core, to have these moments where we celebrate the achievements of our students publicly. We're also going to have the first ever graduate program fair so that our undergraduates can have opportunities to see what the graduate education options are here at UMass Boston. We can do a better job of helping our undergrads aspire to become successful graduate students. We'd like to keep a lot of them here, but it will also help them see the range of possibilities that are out there before them. And then continuing emphasis on early alerts. So every semester now for the last 3 years, we've been encouraging faculty to submit early alerts in the midpoint of the semester so that we can inform students whether they're doing well, they get a green alert, whether there's some concern there, there's a yellow alert, or where they're in real danger of failing, and that's a red alert. And this is to make sure that we can help students access the resources they need to succeed. So we just finished, right before spring break this spring, we had the most alerts ever issued during the spring semester, over 11,500. 231 participating faculty members, which is up 50 from last year, which I deeply, deeply appreciate. But I also want to go to why this matters, And so, for example, when we did this last fall, we had just over 1,011 students who either received a yellow or red alert, but ended up by the end of the semester getting a B- or higher in the course. Conversely, we had another 5,741 students who ended up with a D, an F, or a W, but were not in a course that gave an alert. So we have seen evidence that when students get alerts, and then it's not just we tell them, oh, by the way, you're in danger. Our advisors then reach out immediately to anybody who has alert. We are expanding our pilots to get academic coaches working with those students who are in trouble, and it's making a difference. So I really want to encourage everybody to continue to participate in this important initiative. One other quick thing to look ahead on, we're going to be launching a new web-based resource platform called UConnect. We've been merging, right, academic and career advising within ACES. This is going to be an amazing resource for our students to access internships, job information, find out data about different kinds of careers, but it's an excellent resource for employers as well. So this will be coming out in about 2 weeks, and I really encourage all of you to look for this. And this is state of the art in terms of a web-based platform to really enhance career opportunities for our students. So are we making a difference through all these activities and initiatives? And the answer is yes. When our fall to spring, the number of students, right, who started last fall as new students and continued into the spring increased 4.1% for all students and 4.4% for our first-time full-time. This is a big jump for us. We have had flat first-year retention for about the last 10 years, but except for it's dipped a little bit the last year. So the last year and a half since we launched the strategic plan, we've been putting all of these significant efforts in place. And again, it's making a difference. And then even for the students who started a year ago, we've seen a 2.1% increase in their, essentially into their fourth semester from fall 22 into spring 24. So these efforts are making a difference. We're also up in graduate student re-enrollment. So up 4.4% for part-time students and 0.3% for full-time students. Now the 0.3% doesn't look very big, but we were already over 95%. So there's not a lot of movement for but we do have a lot of part-time graduate students. And this was an area that we were lagging. So I'm very encouraged to see the progress there. So I wanted to finish with those numbers because there's a lot of hard work going into it, and we should track and measure our successes. We have a lot of work left to do, though. We're just getting started. But I do want to thank everybody for your contributions. And now I'd like to turn it over to my colleagues. And so coming up next, I'll introduce all three of them so we can just keep it rolling one after another. Joseph Cooper, Rob Pomales, and then Kathleen Curleys. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Provost. Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. So one of the initiatives that I've had the pleasure to work with my colleagues, Deputy Chancellor Garrett Smith and Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, Karen Ferrer Muniz, was the National Assessment of Collegiate Campus Climate Instrument. This is an instrument that was created by the Center for Race and Equity at the University of Southern California. They have an instrument that they've administered to over 1,200 schools across the nation. So this tool enabled us to compare the experiences of our undergraduate and graduate students with peer institutions across the country. So this instrument was complementary to the institutional data that we collect already with our routine campus climate survey and a number of the focus groups and individual interviews that we do. This was administered in the fall of 2022. So as the provost mentioned earlier, we've been very intentional about monitoring post-pandemic experiences of our graduate students, and particularly our undergraduate students who enrolled from high school during that previous year. So about 22%, which for those of you who are familiar with survey research, that's a pretty great sample size of responses from our entire campus student body. 23% of our undergraduate students participated in the survey, and about 16.5% of our graduate students. The 6 areas, as you see on the screen, focused on the racialized experiences of our students. As a university, we've espoused and we are working diligently to become a leading anti-racist and health-promoting institution that's centered on inclusive excellence and sense of belonging. And when we talk about enriching our human core, our student body is centralized in that core. In addition to our staff and faculty, which the University of Southern California Center for Race and Equity has a faculty and staff survey that they're administering, and we will be working with them in the future as well. Within these 6 areas over this entire academic year, we have been presenting to the campus community the findings from each of the areas. We presented the first 4, and over the month of April and May, we will be presenting the research findings, soliciting feedback from the campus community, as well as reviewing recommendations from the University of Southern California Center for Race and Equity, ways in which we can improve policies, programming, and other interventions to enhance our diverse student bodies, experiences, and outcomes at the university. So this is one of many efforts that we're doing to enrich our human core that's focused on our student body, undergraduate and graduate students. At this time, I will pass it over to my colleague, Dr. Robert Pomales, to talk about health services and efforts around mental and holistic health wellness for our entire campus community.
Thank you. So the mental health crisis on college campuses that you've heard a lot about in the news, especially since the pandemic, is real and consequential. And in order to address it, the response has to be comprehensive and multidisciplinary. And if you'll see on the slide, there's a number of resources, programs, and supports that we have on campus for students who are either in distress or are living with a chronic mental health condition as they're trying to succeed here on campus. So we have faith-based programming, we have the counseling center, there's some virtual offerings, and a number of other things that are happening. This is not an exhaustive list, but I do want to talk specifically about the counseling center, the UHS Counseling Center. Over the past 3 years, we have seen a very significant investment in improving the access and the services that we offer in the counseling center. So we've been able to build a very diverse, very talented group. We have 9 full-time staff positions, professional counselors, including social workers and psychologists. We also have contract psychiatry, currently 10 hours a week, but I'm happy to announce that beginning in the fall semester, we will have over 40 hours per week of psychiatry services available for our students. We also have 14 graduate students from our clinical psychology and counseling psychology programs who see clients at our clinic. Now, our priority continues to be immediate evaluation of students presenting in crisis or self-identified emergency. So if a student comes to us, we will immediately see them. They will be evaluated. Now, that emergency posture does mean that we have to make some adjustments to our other services. So we do offer short-term, solution-based psychotherapy, typically 4 to 5 sessions. And once a student requests an appointment, the wait time is between 3 and 4 weeks on average. Now, if you've been out in the community looking for services, whether it be a physician, a counselor, or a social worker, you know that the wait list out in the community is considerably longer than that. So we're always striving to keep that low. We're always trying to innovate and find ways to improve that wait time, but we're pleased to announce that this is the shortest wait time we've ever had in my tenure here for the past 10 years. One of the ways we do that is that you can choose to have your services delivered in person at the counseling center, or you can choose telecounseling. And we have found that right after the pandemic, about 50% of our students wanted to do telemedicine, telecounseling. But we've now gone back to pre-pandemic levels, and only about 10% of our students want to do telecounseling. So they're no longer afraid to see us in person. The other things that we're able to do, because there is resistance at times for seeking care. So we do have our 24/7 crisis line. So students can call any time of day, every day of the year, and talk to a licensed clinician about whatever it is that's happening. That person can make referrals, but most importantly, any information that's gathered during that call goes into the student's medical record here. So we're always aware of students who are in distress, even if they're not coming to us directly. The other thing that I'm very excited about, the virtual mental health peer support community. Essentially, it's called TogetherAll, and what it is a peer-to-peer support group online. But the great thing about it is that it's monitored by licensed clinicians. So if anything of concern is said or shared, if anything raises a red flag, we would be notified and we're able to respond appropriately. Now, so all of those services I've mentioned, we try to get that information out to the students. And so we use a lot of direct messaging. So they're getting a lot of emails. They're getting text messages from us. We use social media. We do a lot of events and workshops. You may have seen signs for something called Karoo, which is our mindfulness program. We have weekly workshops on that, which is a stress management offering. At this very moment, we have our health educator from the Counseling Center leading a mental health and film workshop at the Alumni Center, Alumni Lounge right now, where students are watching some films and talking about the depiction of mental health in film. And it's just one of the ways that we try to get the word out that we're available and what we can offer. So I believe I'm over my time, so I will stop there, but I am always happy to take questions. Thank you.
There we go. Oh, good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Kierleis. I'm the Vice Chancellor for Administration and Finance, and we'll spend a few minutes on a financial overview for the next section of our update. I'm happy to say we're halfway through the fiscal year at this point in the year, and there's two major takeaways that I would provide to the community this afternoon regarding our financial picture. The first is that the state appropriation this year has increased significantly from what we had originally planned for the budget. That's terrific news. And that we're expecting a positive operating margin for this year, which allows us to continue on with all of the work that's been being discussed here without having to have interruptions for budget crises. Since the budget was was adopted by the trustees in June, we've seen revenue increasing compared to what we originally planned, up almost $25 million. Leading that increase is the state appropriation. So the state has funded collective bargaining for the university this year for all the negotiated collective bargaining contracts. It's also provided additional money for some of the mental health initiatives that Rob just spoke about, supporting students, providing additional money for financial aid for students as they work to pay for college as well. Behind the state appropriation increase, we also have increases in tuition and gross tuition. Here, our mix of students has been positive. We've had strong performance from in-state students, but also our international students and our out-of-state students have come back to the university, and that's had a positive effect on our budget. And then grants, as talked about earlier, we are on track. Not only what we already had, but we're projecting by the end of this year, we're going to be close to $83 million in grant revenue, which will be a historic year for the third year in a row. So $9.5 million compared to what we originally planned. So that allows for an additional $9.5 million of activity going on at the campus. The expenses have also increased, but they've increased commensurate with how our revenue is growing. So we have seen an increase in salaries and in fringe. Part of that's collective bargaining, but part of it's also we're having an easier time hiring people right now. Our vacancy rate's going down a little bit because it's not as difficult for people out in the market to find people as it was a couple years ago. So we're keeping track of that. It's all in alignment. We have increases in scholarship and tuition discounting. It's a good thing. The state starting to send some of the Fair Share Act money that had passed to support higher education in the Commonwealth. And UMass Boston is the recipient of $15 million of new financial aid, which you'll see in there. That's money direct to our students. The financial aid office is working with the campus population with some programs called Mass Grant Plus and Mass Grant Plus Expansion. We also, within the budget this year, have adjusted the budget in second quarter for Dorchester Bay City. When we originally planned the budget this year, we thought Dorchester Bay City would close by the end of calendar 2023. They're still on track. They're still in the permitting process. Progress is going on, but they weren't quite able to close by December. So we've moved the budget out to have the closing. We're anticipating now the closing will be later this spring. So the budget now reflects a closing that will be at the end of the fiscal year. So what that does for our budget is you'll see when you look at the interest, is with the proceeds from that project, we are planning to pay off the debt that's on the Bayside parking lot and to pay for the remaining commercial paper that we're using for SDQD. We're still going to do that, but we aren't going to do that as early as we had originally planned. So the interest is a little bit higher than what we had budgeted, but it's all been worked out in the budget. And likewise, we've worked with our facilities area to really take a close look at how we're doing with construction and got the depreciation tweaked a little bit here as mid-year. So overall, like I said, the takeaway here, positive operating margin, good financial position for the university. Another way to look at this would be taking a look at how does our activity this year match up to what we had last year. And here, again, the number one leading story here is increase in support from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We're up $40 million by the end of this year compared to a year ago. And $30 million of that is from the Commonwealth. So they've just been supporting the university on all the fronts I've talked about. We also are seeing similar trends to when we look at the current year for the budget, increases in tuition, increases in the grants, and our expenses still staying in alignment. We do have a 1.5 operating margin this year from the university system, and we are well on track to be doing that. So I would thank everybody who's played a role in this, everybody who keeps their budgets in line, who's worked really hard to deploy the strategic plan. Things are looking well here. The final thing I would say about this is we do have $8 million of one-time ARPA money in the budget this year. And because of how we've been performing so far, we are already being able to roll some of that money into fiscal 25. That will allow for continued resources to support the strategic plan. And so we're going to keep an eye on that for the third and fourth quarter to see if potentially we might even be able to roll a little bit more money over to be able to take some of those resources and put them into the next fiscal year. A little bit about the budget timeline for this year. We are well in budget season. It's getting everything prepared. One of the new things this year, just to bring to the community's attention, is that we're really building the budget this year using two kinds of methodologies. So first we have our current budget process, the incremental budget process, and then we also are now in the first parallel year for the Beacon budget model that's being developed. And so I'm just going to focus on what's new in this process for BBM. You can look at all the rest of the steps up there. The first thing was we took a look at all the areas that support our colleges across the university, and they're called in the model a support unit. And those areas, we moved up the timeline for preparing the budget this year. So those areas all got guidance and targets back in October. So that was earlier than historically had been the case. They worked on all that information, submitted to the budget office, and that information then was used for providing budget guidance and non-payroll targets to the colleges for them to prepare so that would allow to think about how this would look when we would be in a year with the Beacon budget model. So all that work has been going on. We are in the process of getting the budget in order. It's going into the system office the end of next week. And similar to the last few years, the Board of Trustees is scheduled to take a look at tuition and approve that in April so that our students can be informed of what the costs are going to be for college for the upcoming year, and then they'll adopt the overall budget in June. So we'll take all that information, put it into PeopleSoft and Summit so that we can start the new fiscal year in July with adopted budgets. I just want to spend a minute talking about a couple highlights for the budget process for next year. The first and most important one is right up here, is continued efforts to align the operating capital budgets to the strategic plan and the campus master plan. So here work is underway with all the deans, the vice chancellors, to really take all that work that's being done for the strategic plan and make sure our budget reflects that. And using some of that data that's being developed to really continue to improve how we budget things. So really looking at how we use data to forecast enrollment and retention, how we use it to forecast grant activity. Just continued improvement. A lot of hard work in that space. The next thing is, as I was speaking earlier, we do have the opportunity to move some of these one-time ARPA funds. When they came to the university, it was a multi-year grant. We originally thought, we're going to need all that in '24. We need that to get to the operating margin. Because we've seen how things progressed, we're going to be able to move a little bit of that over in '25. So we'll be keeping you updated on how it ultimately lands, but we are already working at getting some projects underway that will go on this summer with some of this initial $3.6 million. Carry forward. There's a lot of people in this audience here who carry forward has been a topic. We are going to be increasing the carry forward limit next year to $100,000. So all the colleges will be able to access that. And then just like current year, if there's plans for larger uses of carry forward, just bring them forward as a plan. They get reviewed. If they're approved, then that also will be part of the budget plan for next year. But that's something we've worked with the provost's office to really be able to implement. We're also actively budgeting for endowed funds. I'm happy to report the amount of income we have from the endowment this year is going to be up 35% next year. So that's a kudos to our Vice Chancellor for Advancement, Adam Wise, and all of the deans who have worked hard to raise money to build the endowment. There is a year lag from when we received an endowed gift to get to receiving income that we actually can deploy. And so we're starting to see some of that work from a couple years ago coming through. So it's up over 35%. So we're getting those amounts out to the colleges and to the areas of the university where they support. And again, building that into our budget to support the strategic priorities of the university. And then lastly, this is going to be the second parallel year for the Beacon budget model. So we're going to move now into taking a look at what does this model look like on an individual college P&L basis, as well as begin to pilot some different levers about how do we then take a look at some of these activities and begin to use data to inform our planning and how we're going to structure ourselves to be able to provide services for our students and for our community. Just briefly, I did say the tuition and fees are going to go to the Board of Trustees. Here, the strong support from the states allowed us to continue to try to keep these increases as low as possible. We do have a 2.5% increase in tuition for next year, but there's going to be no increase in mandatory fees. And, this is well below, if you've been tracking inflation, we've been at like 5-6% for the last few years. The university's not immune to that. We deal with those kinds of inflationary impacts as well. But we're keeping these rates low. And then we do have for room, COCM, they adopted the rates for the residence hall back in December as part of the public-private partnership. That'll be a 2% increase. And the board associated with the dining with the residence halls will be a 3% increase. Last part I just want to touch on briefly is capital budget. We spend a lot of time looking at the operating budget, but the capital budget also is being updated right now. New for this year is a call for all facilities-related projects that our campus planning and sustainability department put out. So they reached out to across the university to get information on projects that might want to be proposed and have been reviewing them. Those projects have gone to the Space Committee, and then the Space Committee ultimately will make some recommendations to university leadership for inclusion in the budget. You should see from the budget office some templates coming out for equipment and other kinds of capital needs that might be outside of this call for projects. And then we also will be deploying in the budget some funds from the Fair Share Act that have been set aside for capital needs for higher education. The state put aside $50 million for higher education capital needs, and they basically had put DCAM, which is the state's arm for capital construction, in charge of developing criteria for that. So we took that criteria and looked at what's going on here at the campus that we can use these funds for. And I'm pleased to say that we've already received approval from DCAM to use a portion of that money towards the work we're doing with the UMass Boston Police Department and building them a more efficient and sustainable space. And then we're going to be looking at some other projects, including replacing all the dead trees on campus as part of this project. So this is new money that came to the university. It is restricted. There's specific things that you can or cannot use the money for, but we're going to put it all to use, and we need to put it to use by June of '25. And then we also will continue with the capital budget. Items in construction are priority. Items that we need to do for compliance, for accreditation, and the like, those are priorities. And then DCAM also is continuing. They're matching. They have a deferred maintenance program where they provide money and the university matches it, and they're continuing that. So you'll see some projects going on. If you think about the facade work going on Wheatley and McCormick, so that's an example of one of those kinds of projects. So we just had a campus lunch and learn a couple weeks ago on March 7th. It's on the campus website if you're interested in learning a little bit more about our projects or what we've got in the plans for the capital program. By all means, just go to the website and you can see that there. So I think, I would just close by just saying, it's great to be up here now than it was in 2017, 2018. Because of all the work of everybody here, we are in a much better financial situation. The Commonwealth support this university, our students are being supported. And so, we're going to keep at it. It's not without challenges moving forward. But, as we stand here today, we're going to just continue the rest of this year and keep up this positive trend. So with that, I'm going to turn the chip floor back to our chancellor.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathleen. As I've heard the various presentations, I am so moved by the extraordinary progress we've continued to face strong winds and an undertow. But in a time of crisis in higher education, our mission is a noble vision. The extraordinary work of all the vice chancellors, of all the deans, of all the chairs, of all the faculty, on behalf of the noble idea that is a public urban research university taking on the fundamental challenges of our time with such strength, with such clarity of vision, with such ganas, with such effervescence, makes me so proud. I am so grateful to all of you. Yeah. Thank you. Before we take it over for questions, I want to just make a few reminders and issue an invitation. As we mentioned earlier, Dr. Carey will be joining us April 3rd as part of the new series on climate, From Crisis to Resilience. On Friday, April 5th, we're going to begin the day with a celebration, a celebratory ribbon cutting and formal opening of our beautiful new quad. I did not want to have my installation prior to the opening of our campus. So, in a way, this is a moment of twin celebrations. The new campus, the extraordinary work that really announces the new chapter in the journey of UMass Boston. In the tech era, I guess we call it UMass Boston 2.0. So we are going to celebrate the completion of the SAQD project. Finally, Mike and the team, finally, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to you. and Kathleen wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with tachycardia. What's happening with the paths? Are they or are they not ready? It's beautiful, and it's all going to be ready. So we will celebrate literally the transformation of the Quad, symbolically the transformational change under the leadership of the provost, of the vice chancellors, of the deans, of the chairs, of the faculty of our campus. It is a new beginning for UMass Boston. And our campus community will come to celebrate that. The ribbon ceremony, I think, is a very, very significant moment, and I hope all of you will join us for that very beautiful moment. We will then have my inauguration as chancellor. It's a little funny because I am now, you're all sitting down, I am now the most senior chancellor of the four-year campuses. It's like, you all know me, warts and all. So it's not so much an introduction as a finally. I'm very, very moved. This will be a beautiful, beautiful event. We have an amazing lineup. I'm not allowed to share it. Peter will get mad at me if I do, so I can't give you all the details, but it's going to be a beautiful day. It's going to be a beautiful reflection, moment to reflect upon our campus, our future. We will have 3 concurrent academic sessions. I think the sessions embody the spirit of the strategic plan, the plan that all of you, our deans, our chairs, our faculty, work so hard, as the provost noted. We're going to focus on 3 areas that I think are so significant now and moving forward. Climate change. For the first time in the history of the planet, all living systems are at risk. For us, this is a double concern. We're a harbor campus on a harbor city. This is not a problem somewhere else in a faraway island in the Pacific. This is the existential issue of our times. The data will tell you a very sad story. The most vulnerable people on Earth, the folk that have had the least to do with the emissions of the polluting gas and heat-trapping emissions, are paying dearly with their health, with their lives, with having to migrate, forced to migrate. So climate change will be a topic for the first of the concurrent panels. Education for the future, and a focus under the leadership of Dean Parker on our university-assisted model of community schools for moving forward. Health and wellness, under the leadership of Dean Bo Fernal. We have an amazing lineup of speakers joining us, including for the climate panel, our proud Beacon alumna, Gina McCarthy, first White House climate advisor to the President of the United States, former administration of the Environmental Protection Agency. And I am told by my colleagues in the physical sciences, the most respected administrator in the United States government when it comes to, former administrator in the United States government, when it comes to climate and climate related. And I'm so proud that she is a beacon. We will have another first, another individual that embodies the unique spirit of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the first ever in the nation climate chief, Melissa Hoffer. My colleagues tell me she is the first climate chief, ensuring an all-of-government approach to taking on the wicked momentum the climate is generating for everything we do in our Commonwealth. She will be joining us. The eminent Harvard professor Mary Waters, one of the leading scholars in the world on why people have to migrate, will join us. Dean Tina Christie, the UCLA Wasserman Dean, will join Rebecca Granger, Dr. Rebecca Granger, Mayor Wu Senior Advisor for Youth and Schools, and Dr. Nicole Keith, Executive Associate Dean at Indiana University School of Public Health. It's an amazing lineup of speakers. So I am so grateful. This will be a celebration. This will be a celebration of ideas. This will be a celebration of the translational instruments we're developing with knowledge, with a deference to the pursuit of that which is true, science and logic, that which is just, and that which is beautiful, aesthetics. Those are the three pillars of a university in the 21st century. So please come and join us. I come from a fiesta culture. This is going to be a fiesta. So come prepare. We're going to have music. We're going to have all kinds of other things. I now turn it to our Vice Chancellor for Communications, Megan Sullivan. Megan.
Kathleen, the first question I think will probably be for you. It's the question is trees. I see what I feel like are a lot of Christmas trees on the new quad area above the parking lot. I'd like to know what the plan is to put in more trees that potentially provide shade. Notice that some of the tables on the plaza level do not have shade or cover. Is it possible that these areas are still being staged, but we'd just like to know, hoping that you might be able to provide some shaded areas for students and staff within the new green space. Kathleen, any comments on trees?
I do. Is this working? Yes. So we've already planted over 500 trees on the campus quad, and we've got more coming. So you will see some more being planted as the spring weather progresses. So the part that we see the Christmas trees, those are our evergreen trees that are all year round. We do have a number of trees that have leaves, the deciduous trees, and those will start to be blooming as spring progresses. So you'll start to see some more leafy trees as you go out onto the quad. We do have, there is shade in the quad, which you see as the day progresses in different areas from the buildings themselves. So we do have that. We are mindful of the wind. Certainly today is a reminder of that it's a very windy environment. So all the trees that are being planted are native to this area so that they have the best chance of survival. So you will see some more trees with some shade for our faculty and staff and students all to enjoy.
Thank you. And then the other submitted question is, what are the specific strategies that have been undertaken to make UMass Boston a Hispanic service institution in interaction with Latin American and Latinx students, scholars, and academic projects? Joe?
Sure. Great question. So first, let me say that we absolutely, as a university, aspire to be an HSI, an Hispanic Serving Institution. But I want to say that there's actually two layers to that. One is getting the official designation to be an HSI. And to be qualified for that designation, you have to have at least 25% of your first-time, full-time new students be Latino, Hispanic students. And right now, we've sort of charted sort of what the youth population looks like, what our enrollment patterns look like. If we don't do anything else, 7 or 8 years from now, we would reach that benchmark. However, what's more important is that we really be an authentic Hispanic serving institution. So not just have the demographic numbers, but what do we have in place to be a welcoming, supportive, culturally and linguistically sustaining environment. So we have formed a working group that to further catalyze and accelerate these efforts. It's just started this fall. We've joined the Hispanic Associations of Colleges and Universities, and I led a delegation to Chicago this fall to go meet with leaders from other Hispanic-serving institutions. Dr. Karen Ferrer-Muniz, who's in Puerto Rico right now on an accreditation visit, is also going with HACU to Spain next month as part of an educational tour. So we're starting to put some pieces in place. We've also been partnering with some Latin American universities. So for example, UNAM, which is the largest and most prestigious university in Mexico, for the last 5 years, they've had actually an office here on campus. I just went down to Mexico City with Dr. Tracy Baynard last fall to sign a new 5-year agreement with them to expand our programming and activities. We also signed a new MOU with the University of Quintana Roo in Mexico, and those are just a couple of examples. And then there's a whole host of things we're doing through student affairs with our Latina students and Hispanic students. But the last thing I'll say is that I'm very excited just that the Margarita Muniz Academy, which is Boston's only bilingual public high school, it will be launching early college with them in the fall. So there's a number of things. We're just getting started. This is a priority for the university, and you'll be hearing lots more about it in the coming years.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you in just over a week at all the inauguration events. Don't forget to check back on the website to RSVP, and we'll see you there.
Thank you.